Good evening. I'm Janet Chandler with the Cullman Tribune, and I'm happy to be here with you again tonight to read you a bedtime story. I'm going to be reading from My Little Treasury, Fairy Tales. I love this little book. Tonight I'm going to be reading The Selfish Giant. Once there was a beautiful garden. It was covered with soft grass, colorful flowers, and peach trees ripe with pink blossoms in spring and plump fruit in fall. Each day, on their way home from school, groups of children would visit the garden. They would lie in the cool grass and hide among the trees. They would pick flowers for their mothers and eat the sweet peaches for a snack. How happy they were! What the children didn't know was that the garden actually belonged to a giant. This particular giant had taken a vacation, leaving his garden unattended for 7 years. But then one day, out of the blue, the giant returned to find kids in his garden. "What are you doing here?" he cried in a gruff voice. "This is my garden. Nobody can play here but me." To make his point clear, the giant locked the gate and nailed 2 sturdy planks of wood across the doorway. Then he hung up a sign that said, "Keep out." The children watched the giant sadly. Now the children had nowhere to play. Soon spring turned to summer, and summer became fall. The fall gave way to winter. When winter said farewell, spring came again. Everywhere the land was filled with birds and blossoms, that is, except the selfish giant's garden. The birds refused to sing there, since no children would hear their songs. Similarly, the trees refused to blossom. A thick coat of snow remained on the ground. "I cannot understand why spring is so late in coming," said the giant as he looked out at his cold, white garden. "I hope it will come soon." But spring never came, nor summer. One morning, a strange thing happened. The giant was lying in bed when he heard a song that sounded so sweet to his ears that he thought he must be dreaming. But it really was a bluebird singing outside his window. It had been so long since he had heard a bird sing in his garden that it seemed to him the most beautiful music in the world. The selfish giant sat up and looked out the window. What do you think he saw? It was a most wonderful sight. The kids had crept into the garden through a hole in the wall. The trees were so happy to see them that they covered themselves with pink and white blossoms. The giant's heart melted as he looked out. "How selfish I have been," he cried. "Now I know why spring would not come." He was very sorry for what he had done. The giant crept downstairs and slowly opened the door. As he entered the garden, he saw that in one corner it was still winter. A little boy stood beneath the tree, stretching his arms up to reach its high branches. The poor tree was still quite covered with frost, and although it bent its branches as low as it could, the boy was too small to reach them. The giant smiled at the boy and lifted him gently into the tree. The tree broke into bloom as the boy smiled shyly at the giant. "Does this mean we may play in your garden?" asked the little boy. "From now on, this is your garden," answered the giant. "You and your friends may come and play whenever you wish." Every day the children returned to play. They brought friends, sisters, and brothers. It truly became a place for all children. Being selfish had made the giant lonely, but when he learned to share, friends filled his garden and happiness filled his heart. To this day, the giant can be seen playing with the children in the enchanted garden. The trees and the bird make it pleasant, but it's the children that make it magical. The end. Good night. Sweet dreams.